The journey begins in Dar es Salaam, the historic gateway of East Africa, along the shores of the Indian Ocean. Once a small coastal settlement, the city has grown into Tanzania's economic heart, where crowded streets, busy markets, and massive cargo ships reflect the constant movement of trade and people. For decades, Dar es Salaam has served as the starting point of the legendary TAZARA Railway, linking the coast to the deep interior of Africa. At the central railway station, travelers from every corner of the country gather before sunrise, carrying bags, food, and hopes for the long journey ahead. Farmers, traders, workers, and families depend on the train because it remains one of the cheapest ways to travel across the region. More than just transportation, the railway became a lifeline for remote communities and a symbol of independence during a time when newly free African nations were searching for their own path forward.
As the TAZARA train leaves Dar es Salaam behind, the railway enters some of the wildest and most isolated regions in East Africa. The tracks snake through dense forests, abandoned plains, steep valleys, and remote settlements hidden deep inside the African wilderness. In areas like Kazimzumvi Forest, the train passes through thick jungle landscapes where nature slowly swallows everything around the rails. Built across dangerous terrain during the 1970s, the TAZARA became known as one of the most difficult and risky railway projects ever completed in Africa. Along the route, tiny station platforms suddenly come alive whenever the train appears from the wilderness. Villagers rush toward the carriages, carrying roasted peanuts, fried snacks, fresh fruit, and bottles of cold drinks to sell to passengers during the short stops. For many remote communities, the railway is not simply transportation. It is their only reliable connection to hospitals, trade markets, schools, and larger cities. Despite aging tracks, breakdowns, wildlife dangers, and harsh conditions, the TAZARA Railway still remains a lifeline, crossing the heart of Africa's most dangerous and remote railway routes.
Deep inside the wilderness of Salu's Game Reserve, the TAZARA Railway passes through one of the largest wildlife regions in Africa. Far away from cities and highways, the train travels across open savannas, thick bushland, and river valleys where wild animals roam freely. Passengers often witness elephants, giraffes, zebras, baboons, and antelopes moving only meters away from the railway line, turning the dangerous journey into an unforgettable safari across the African wilderness. For train drivers, however, this beautiful landscape can quickly become dangerous. Large animals sometimes wander onto the tracks without warning, forcing locomotives to slow down suddenly to avoid collisions. Elephants have derailed trains in the past, while monkeys and other wildlife often scatter moments before the locomotive passes. Traveling through these remote reserves requires constant concentration, making the TAZARA not only one of Africa's most scenic railways, but also one of its most challenging and unpredictable routes. In remote railway towns like Kazaki, life around the TAZARA line moves at a slow and uncertain rhythm. These stations sit deep in isolated territory where infrastructure is weak, maintenance is limited, and old railway systems have largely broken down. Communication equipment that once controlled train movement no longer works properly, so railway staff often depend on mobile phones and manual coordination just to manage train traffic across long distances. Because of these challenges, delays are a normal part of life along the line. Passengers can wait for hours, sometimes even longer, without any clear information about when the next train will arrive. In this unpredictable environment, the railway is often described as one of Africa's most difficult and dangerous transport systems, where timing is uncertain and operations depend heavily on human effort rather than modern technology.
Yet despite all these problems, the railway still carries deep importance for local communities. For many people living in these isolated areas, the TAZARA remains one of the few available connections to trade, work, and survival, a risky but essential lifeline running through some of Africa's most challenging landscapes.
One of the most dangerous sections of the TAZARA Railway runs through the Mufindi Highlands and remote mountain regions of Tanzania. This area is known for its steep slopes, deep valleys, and unpredictable weather, making it one of the most challenging railway routes in Africa. During construction in the 1970s, workers spent years cutting through dense forests, blasting tunnels through solid rock, and building long bridges across unstable ground. It was a massive engineering struggle in a wild and isolated landscape. Even today, the danger has not disappeared. Heavy rains often weaken the soil and trigger landslides that threaten the tracks. Over time, bridges and rails continue to suffer from erosion and harsh weather conditions. Because of these risks, trains must slow down carefully in certain areas to pass safely through the mountains. This section of the journey shows the true power and difficulty of building a railway through some of Africa's most extreme terrain.
Further south, the TAZARA Railway enters the dramatic landscapes of the Great Rift Valley, where the land itself seems to split apart across vast distances. The train passes through remote and rugged terrain before reaching the stunning region near Lake Nyasa, one of the deepest and oldest lakes in the world. This massive body of water is home to thousands of fish species and supports generations of fishing communities living along its shores. Most families here depend on small-scale farming and traditional fishing methods that have been passed down for decades, surviving in a region where modern infrastructure is still limited. Surrounded by steep mountains and deep valleys, this part of the journey is both breathtaking and isolated. The landscape is beautiful, but also remote and difficult to access, showing once again how the TAZARA Railway passes through some of the most challenging and dramatic environments in Africa.
Crossing into Zambia, the TAZARA Railway takes on a new level of importance for the people living along its path. Here, the train is not just a means of travel, but a vital connection between rural communities, markets, and major towns. At busy stops like Kasama, the platforms quickly fill with passengers carrying sacks of maize, vegetables, and everyday goods. The arrival of the train brings movement and opportunity, even in these remote northern regions. For many women, the railway is the preferred way to travel for business. It is considered safer and more affordable than long road journeys, making it an essential part of daily life and trade across the country. Near the dramatic Muchinga Escarpment, the railway passes through some of the most remote and untouched landscapes in the region, leading to the breathtaking Kundalila Falls. The water drops powerfully into a natural pool hidden deep within the wilderness, surrounded by forests, cliffs, and wild vegetation. It is one of those rare places where nature remains largely undisturbed and silent, far away from modern development. For local communities, Kundalila Falls is more than just a natural wonder. It holds spiritual meaning and deep cultural significance, passed down through generations. The area is respected as a sacred place, where nature, history, and belief come together in one powerful landscape.
After more than 2 days of continuous travel, the TAZARA Railway finally arrives at Kapiri Moshi, deep in Zambia's copper mining region. This long and demanding journey crosses forests, mountains, rivers, and remote wilderness before reaching its final stop. The trip is often slow, uncomfortable, and unpredictable, yet it remains one of the most important rail routes in East Africa. Despite the challenges, the train continues to move through harsh terrain and difficult conditions, carrying both passengers and goods across thousands of kilometers. For many communities and travelers, the TAZARA Railway is more than just transport. It stands as a powerful symbol of survival, independence, and hope, connecting people and places in a journey that still shapes lives across the region.
The TAZARA Railway is more than just steel tracks cutting across Africa. It is a living part of history that links people, cultures, wildlife, and nations across vast distances. Even today, despite financial challenges and aging infrastructure, this freedom train continues its long and powerful journey through the heart of the continent, carrying both passengers and the legacy of African independence.